Okay, I've added some more pictures. We'll just see those.
Oh, those are nice. With the tree also.
Hmm. Okay, so this is the picture you shared. I'm looking at the red one or even the blue one here. And if I were to isolate that, we have these which are not really the ornaments, but they are used for to put on a tree. But this is the bell, and this is a nice one to make because those holes give us an opportunity to show that it's a sphere. Then over here, the ornament is very pretty because its attachment is quite decorative. Coloring this sometimes can be a little bit of a challenge when you don't have very sharp highlights. So we can use this one where you have a very sharp highlight and high gloss on the surface. Okay. All right. So we'll start off with making those ornaments, and then if time permits, then we will also try and do the stone texture because that is fairly easy. It's much easier than you imagine.
Okay.
I'll just go get some water.
Let's try to get the hair clip ones.
So let's try making this one first. It's fairly simple. We'll draw a circle and then this ring on top, and then maybe bring also make a little bit of the branch on which it's hung to give it a Christmassy feel. And then we can try making this as well. So we will draw both of them and we will alternate painting one and the other. So we save time. While one is drying, then the other one can be painted. The colors will be the same, so we don't have to worry about that. So we'll begin the drawing first. So while our reference image is slightly tilted, we can always change that and make it straight. Keep a little room from the top because we want to put a little bit of the branch. And if you normally we think linear and start with from the top and then draw the string and then the circle. But it often happens that when we have a complicated shape centered below something simple like a string, we miss the center. So start with the circle because that is slightly difficult to control. And make multiple lines so that you don't have to rely on just that first line being absolutely perfect. Then on the top, we will just flatten the top a little bit and accommodate the attachment, which will be almost a rectangular shape. The base of this rectangle will be slightly rounded. The top can be slightly rounded as well, but it also extends above and flattens again. And then there's another circle on top. And this circle is also incomplete. It's slightly flat from the bottom. To this, we will attach the hook. So here we have an oval shape. Which then will extend into a wire going straight up. And don't make the wire too long. Here you can have a branch coming out. The tip of the hook need not be addressed because we just have to make a whole lot of spindly needles for the branch. So here it helps to do a little bit of a study of the leaves also. They aren't like this. They aren't like eyelashes coming out from a different place. They are clumps coming out from a space like this. There are varied places where the leaves or the needles come out from. So they will be slightly big in some places, slightly small, and most of them will be pointing towards the terminal end of the branch. Drawing a few of these in pencil helps. Later on, we will be going over these same lines. Now, let's make that highlight, which is not a rectangle really. And the edges are curved, these edges. Even these edges are curved. These belie the flatness, which otherwise on paper we see. Then there is a very odd shaped dark shade around this highlight. And this is odd shaped simply because the reflective surface is catching the reflection of the room that this ball is in. So just loosely try and replicate with lines the edges of these dark areas. So we have a highlight, we have a mid-tone, which is a bright red color over here, moving into slightly deeper tones over here, and then we have a darker shade over here. There are a few places where you have some lightness also. We will ignore secondary highlights, which are over here, and maybe some over here, just which could possibly be other shiny items in that area. Now with circular or spherical surfaces, some places you will see an additional highlight. In this case, you have a thin highlight towards the edge on the right. If you can, try to retain that. Now just below this, we can make the other ornament as well. So we could have a second branch coming out behind. The source of the branch can remain the same. Extend this a little further. I don't want to now add another ornament over here. And we don't have to separate the two. Before we draw the attachment, let's draw the circle first. And make this slightly smaller than the first one. This is as a matter of composition. If you have two items, try to keep and they're different items, then don't make them the same size. Size also draws attention differently. Detail, a large size, a bright color, all these things will attract attention first. and a smaller size, less detail will attract attention secondary. But if you give that hierarchy in your picture, in terms of composition, it just looks a lot more pleasing. It almost gives the viewer the license to not give each item the same amount of importance. Now, as we see in the picture, there is a joint. I'm making the one on the left, not the one on the right. There is a slight dip in this joint at the equator. And it also sticks out just a little bit. This has to do with the construction of these bells. Two parts are made separately and then they are fused together. That's my understanding. Now, a little to the right, make a flattish oval. This won't be a circle because when objects move towards the side, they will start becoming less perfect in their circular shape. And then draw two lines which are almost on the, well, matching the longitude of that space. So how you should visualize this is like as if you were seeing the globe. You have a north-south line, and then you have lines that go along the sides. And as it goes towards the extreme end, the line curves more and more. So somewhere in between that end, you will have a slightly less curvilinear line. Right in the center, there's also a star, but to keep it, again, imitating spheres or spherical nature of this ball, make the star slightly to the side. Now, for the star, I'm going to make a little thickness on the, okay, this is how I'm going to make the thickness. I have made the star look like this. All the lines are slightly curved and curving towards the left. And yeah. And to draw the thickness, I will draw a thick line here. And then from underneath here. That way I will show that this is hollow. Now this is only if you can make that line. If you can't make it, if it's too tiny or too detailed for you, forget it. On the keyhole, you will make the shape exactly on the opposite side. It's a very small detail, but it helps to show that the object we are drawing is hollow. Now let's also translate the highlight that's right in the center. And then around the highlight, you have a dark space. Remember, there's also a highlight in this little joint, a T in the center. And the dark patch takes a break at that point. Now there's other mid-tones. Up over here one, then dark tone on the top. Sorry, one small. And then there's a patch over here. So we're just faithfully copying down the shapes. Okay, there's a shape on the right as well. To make this more believable, I would make a hook on the top. Now, this is my own imaginary hook. And I will string a ribbon through this. This line will extend lower slightly. And then maybe you can have a second line coming from the top and joining here. If you are not comfortable making such a thin ribbon, by all means make a nice fat ribbon. Even that can look very nice. All right, shall we start painting? Okay. Whenever you're painting any of these shiny objects, we want to build the dark texture up. So I often resort to using a few uh, other colors also, like mixing scarlet with orange. Our colors are going to be scarlet, crimson, burnt umber. I will give you a list of these colors as we go also. But this can be our base tone. It's a little bit of orange and scarlet. Now this is a wash. So when we give a wash, even within the wash, we can create some tonal variation. So if we study the picture, we notice that our highlight is here. Around the highlight, we have a dark shape, which is, say, like this. And then you have a dark shape over here. And around that, you have all these slightly light shapes. But there are two medium patches on the side. This is getting into too much detail, but it helps to notice these things. So we are going to paint over the entire ball, leave the highlight on in the center of this band, go paint across all the rest of the band, and then keep some extra paint, the same paint on the right edge and the left edge. So I want you to just observe this while I paint. I have to carefully steer away from the highlight section. And press the brush here. I'm leaving a highlight in the center also. And don't paint with me, just observe this because I'm going to do something here that might not be expected. And here we can paint through, bring it down. And while the paint is still wet, wash your brush, and with just the edges of a damp brush, smoothen this edge out. Every time you run your brush over, some of the paint will carry onto your brush. So wipe it with your hand or on the rag and smoothen this out. This operation needs to be done very briefly. If you keep going over and over and over more than about 2-3 times, then you will land up making a big patch of water which will just spread all over the place. Okay, do you want to give it a shot? Keep it very watery. Are we done? On the next uh, ornament, we can add a little bit of crimson to the mix and do the exact same thing again all over. What we are putting down is this color. But maybe I can show you something else along with it. So let's make two colors here. Make a second color with crimson, burnt umber, and cobalt blue. So this is our dark shade. And while we are painting the first base itself, we can insert the dark colors in a few places. Again, I'd like you to watch this first, and then you can do the same. So while I'm creating a wash, I'm also making this a little darker than our usual washes. This is orange, crimson, orange scarlet. No, first crimson. This time our highlight is fairly sharp. So you will press down and paint over the whole thing. Just this edge can be left unpainted. Remember to keep hydrating the brush and loading your brush before it goes completely dry. Pull the paint downward. And while the paint is wet, you can insert the next color. So make sure you have put in enough paint, especially if you are sitting under a fan or something, because you should not let these edges dry. And I'm taking the darker color and I'm going to drop it in these certain areas with a very light hand, making vertical strokes, pretty much like we had made the um, lines over there. So this enables us to have a much like a very amorphous shape. Automatically the color will start blending, and you unfortunately cannot create this effect after the paint has dried, unless of course you make a separate layer. Here the paint has dried, so I'm going to have to make some shapes which are fairly sharp edged, but the bottom is still wet. And this, the extreme bottom has also now dried. Okay, you want to try this now? I'm putting down the breakup of the colors that we've used to make the dark shade as well. Are we done? Okay. Now just check.
It's very wet, mine.
Even the other one, we're going back to the first one.
No, the second.
Yeah, no, so we'll go back to the first one now.
Okay.
Now here are the few places where we have the dark shadows, medium shadows, not even dark. There you can recreate that with this effect. So remember that you don't paint on this central joint. But we want to make it look like there's you can't make a flat patch here. So this is what I recommend. I have a rectangle drawn there and I don't have to worry about this star. I have to just make it dark afterwards. So I'm making an L-shaped painting there, but I'm wiping the brush, washing the brush, wiping it, and then with whatever residual paint I have, I'm going to pull the color in. So you have to remember to not keep too much water in that section. Let me just show it to you one more time. So here I have another shape on top. I've just placed a little bit of color in there. And now I'm going to use just the residual paint and keep wiping the paint after a few applications so that you can get a dark to light effect. Just the edge can be dark. Goes a little around this. So we have 3 such shapes. There's one shape. Now the bottom is one. And this shape goes all around. So you can have an entire dark patch like this. And over here. And pull it downward. Take a little bit of this color and also put it on one edge or both edges of this hook that we made on top. There will be some highlight over there also. And that'll be on the top and the sides. So the top is obscured with the ribbon. So you can leave a little space in the middle of that ring on the sides. And this will look shiny enough for us. That's good enough. I'll just be back in a minute. Okay, done? Now, before we go to the dark patch on the first ornament, let's address its attachment. For this, we'll use a thin brush. Use maybe a size 1 brush or something. And first, you can paint a mix of yellow ochre and gamboge. So more gamboge than yellow ochre. And here we are going to leave a little bit of a white patch just at its base. Paint everything else, a little patch on at this point, just above or maybe to the center, and fill this whole thing up. Again, for the ring, keep a little highlight in the center of the sides. And I would keep a little highlight on the top triangular part as well. Can you see it? I hope it's visible. It's so tiny. If I take it any further, it'll just get fuzzy. So I have a highlight here, these two, a highlight here, and the base is not fully painted. So when we use a thin brush, we are able to control the quantity of paint in it much better. To this color, I will now steadily add yellow ochre, and I will start making this application going towards the side, both sides, from the center. This attachment should be a little round over here on the edge. And to this, I will add some cobalt blue to make this color even deeper. So just have a look at it. If you're not sure, this is what happens to the color. It starts becoming a deep brown, deep yellow ochre. Don't add black. You can get this effect just by adding cobalt blue. And with every layer, you paint a smaller and smaller space. Now just at the base, here too, you will paint a little dark edge. So automatically the highlights remain seen. Many a time when you have to do some very tricky highlights and requires layers and layers of paint, use a thin brush. That way you eliminate the dangers of picking up too much paint or too much water. And you can keep painting this with darker and darker layers to get more shine. Here too, I can use the same color to paint the hook. Make the outline simply. Dodge around the top of the ring. And in making this very thin outline, you will automatically make its highlight, which will come in the center. Slightly darker shade towards the left. So what happens often, if you have an object which has a shine and you want to translate it or you want to emphasize its shine, its own attachments can also be good to inform of that option. Now, once this is done, here's again something that you can do as a second layer. We would think that now we should make these shapes darker, but I'm going to do something really maverick here. I have made a mix of gamboge and orange, nowhere near any of the scarlet red combination. It's not too wet, and I'm going to go over this in a few areas, but very quickly. So I change the shade and make it bright. Don't press too much here. This gives the whole glass a different look altogether. And at this point, I'm going to carry that color along the right. Now, if in doing this, if you color it up completely, don't worry. Now that we've made a second wet layer, you can again reinforce the shadows by using the crimson and cobalt 2 and burnt umber combination. And this time, add more paint in or darker shades in a few spots, not the same spots again, because then it will just defeat the purpose. So here we start building depth. This paint has to be reasonably thick so that it doesn't run away with the wash. And you can make all sorts of shapes that you see in the reflection again. I'm going to take a slightly watery shade and go here also into this section. Whatever you do, don't make more than a brief stroke for this application. If you go back and forth too much, I'm afraid all you're going to be left with is light patches because you'll keep picking up color. So one quick stroke here, quick stroke there. That should do the trick. Just before the whole thing dries, I'm taking a little black into this mixture. With all the other colors as well. And adding a few dark spots for the highest amount of contrast I can get. Now the trick here is to keep looking at the reference image. Don't imagine anything. There you have it. That should be done. Now this is still wet, so we have to wait and see. After it dries, you can take a call if you want to make some more layers, some more of these dots. Then you go through the same process again. Put in a nice bright shade in a little smaller area this time, and then add more shadows. Sorry, I had to step away for a minute. Someone was at the door. Okay, as this is drying, I can see that there are a few sharp lines that I can add to it, but that's just a detail that we can omit also, not a problem. Shall we move to the second one? Now for this one again, we use the same colors. And here too, we can use the smaller brush. So this is the third color, crimson, burnt umber, and cobalt blue. Now, in case you want, you can also change it to ultramarine blue. That will change the shades a slight amount, but the blue hue in itself will add a particular kind of dark to your shade. Often we think that if we want to darken a color, we should add black. But with that, you get one dimension. And that can be the last color that you add. Okay, so here now we have a nice dark shadow on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and make that. Wherever you have sharp shadows, it really helps. This is very easy to make. Wherever you have fuzzy shadows, like the center, it starts becoming a little tricky. And as we did earlier also, imitate the shapes the way you see them. Even if you cannot interpret them, you can't figure out what they are reflecting, just by imitating that, half the job is done. Most of the job is done. The same color continues to the bottom. Right now, I'm completely ignoring the center ring. And this ring will start standing out more because we are painting around it. So it's almost like negative painting. Now let's use this color to paint around the central highlight. Remember to dodge around the ring in the center. Now you can use the same color to, actually no, don't use this color. Use the previous color to first paint the edge of that star. Actually paint the whole star including the edge, and then we'll paint the black omitting the edge. So wherever you have dark colors to fill, the more layers you fill, the better it is. Now let's take the second color into the ring. So I see a little bit at the base here, not at the top, running through till where the highlight comes. Then dodge the highlight, go to the other side. And then on this side, I see the red on the top, not the bottom. So this shows us that there are two parts to this ring. There's a very thin line running through, but we can ignore that because it's so tiny. It'll be very painful to try to draw it. So don't worry about that. Take the next color, the third color, and like we had painted this part, the one on top, just a little off from the shadow on the body, you have these shadows on the rim as well. And then take the last color and do the same in a smaller section. So again, there's some dark here, here, and here. Now finally, we can take a pitch black color. And we have pitch black shade on top. These shadows have partly pitch black color. And at this point now, very carefully with the thinnest brush you have, paint that part of the star, which is going to show us that this is indeed a hollow. So leave that double edge that we have made. It is very minuscule, I know, but in the long run, that matters. So that part you won't find reference in the image that we've selected. Now, in the event that you feel that these edges are too distinct, we can take a medium-sized brush and do that same gamboge orange treatment. But let me do it and see and show it to you first. If you all have come to this level, don't bother right now. I'm taking a little bit of scarlet also in this. And I'm going to go over the medium dark areas, not the dark areas. because that color, once it runs, then I'm done for. So this will merge my colors just a little bit. The base, the bottom part, again, I'm doing the same treatment as before. Not too much color there. This highlight is too much. Don't cover it up. Yeah. This is cool. Now to complete the look, we have to finish the branches. So let me know when you're done with this, then I will move on to the branches because that is not as important right now. So focus on getting these shades correct. Shall I continue?
Yeah.
Okay. For this wire that goes up, I'm going to make this again with yellow ochre. Just a thin line up. You can make it with a single line if you want, like a wire, or if you can just with the hair of your brush make two edges, then the wire looks a little more real. The ribbon, let's make that in a plain scarlet color. So we have a ribbon that comes in the front and the back. Both sides will be the same. And create this loop, make it a little more believable with this. So the top will be a little wider. and the edges will be rounded. There will be a long triangular section that will represent the ribbon from the back. We will put a little bit of a dark shadow in there afterwards. Now for the branch, we will do this in two colors. Again, we will make a mixture of yellow ochre and I have a little bit of sap green in this palette already. So I'm just adding some yellow ochre to that. But it can't just be one color. So I'm going to add a little bit of burnt umber to the mix as well. And when I'm painting the branch, I will alternate between these two colors. I think a little bit of light red might also help because this is becoming too yellow. Now this is the best part. We want a patchy branch. We don't want it to look too smooth. So this is the place where you can make your strokes very static. And automatically this will start looking patchy. Try and dodge behind the first hook that we've made and also the ribbon, the front of the ribbon. Drop in a few patches of burnt umber over here, especially where we are going to then show the branches, the needle leaves. And the bottom part can be even more dark. Now we need to wait for this to dry. Now let's make some color for the leaves. We'll use sap green, a little bit of the same yellow ochre, to tone down the sap green just a little bit. And also cobalt blue to give us the shadows. So at any point when I mix colors, I will have a little bit of all the shades available. So I can keep dipping in one or the other. Using a thin brush, start making very conscious lines for these leaves. And keep looking at the reference image. Here's again another mistake that a lot of people make. Just like people tend to draw eyelashes really fast and then mess up the face. Even these needle leaves are often drawn too rash, thoughtlessly, and then the whole picture looks spoiled. So we are going to distribute all these three colors that we've made across the branch. The lines come in such a way that we feel that there are leaves on all sides, almost like a bottle brush, all sides of the branch. So some will be short, some angles will change. But very few of them will be pointing backwards. They're all pointing towards the apex or the terminus of the branch. They sprout from a few places. So they don't all sprout from the top or continuously in a predictable pattern. So we draw a few clumps and then move in the other direction. Distribute your color throughout. After you're finished with the medium or the light color, then you can move to the medium color. You can do this while the previous color is wet also. And this is the place where it's a good thing that we can never draw the same line again, because that way we can keep the growth very organic. And then right in the end, make a few with the darker color. Now, very logically, when you're drawing this, if right above the ribbon, you don't make too many of these needles, that's perfectly okay. It'll seem very natural. And at the same time, you can make the effort to make a few leaves come through this ring to add to its 3D look. A few dark spots, a few places. just the inner edge. Very thinly. And where the ribbon comes around this ring, just at this edge as well. The front, the inside edge. Okay, that's it. How is it looking?
Mine is a mess.
Huh? Oh dear.
You will not be able to see probably in the photo, but I'll show you. My
Ah,
baubles are not looking nice.
okay. Okay,
Too much
so
paint.
too much. Yeah, yeah. So it's just the quantity of paint
Yeah.
that can be different.
So the shading and the colors are too much, I think.
Yeah. Send me a picture on the group, then I'll be
Yeah.
able to tell better. Shivani, your bottom bubble, you could do that one layer of scarlet and orange,
Yeah.
or
That one is very patchy.
it is very patchy. So just a light shade, and but use scarlet and orange instead of gamboge and orange.
I'm
Even
just
the
sending.
top one does not look shiny in any form.
It's too dark. It is looking shiny, but it's just too dark.
It's because it's in the picture. If you look at it directly, it's not looking.
Oh, is it? Okay, send me a picture on the group, then I can have a closer look.
Yeah, even mine doesn't look shiny at all. Even though I did that orange thing. It
Hmm.
just became patchy.
Mine also.
Okay, so I think this is a matter of controlling the consistency of the paint. How much water, what is the amount of pigment we need, what brush to use. So I'll show you one quick simple trick because I don't want you to leave without at least having something up your sleeve. Yeah, it's a consistency issue. Are you also sitting under a fan or something?
Yeah, directly under a fan.
So that's why the color is drying much faster. So in that case, you can use a slightly fatter brush and that way more pigment.
For the main areas, I use the 10 only, size 10. It's just the detailing that I use 4, and then the leaves and all I use the smallest brush. But the main colors, I use 10.
It's no, so the brush size is only so that you have enough medium left on the paper despite sitting under a fan, so that when you add the next color, it doesn't dry patchy.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
I have those, like wherever we've used a darker color, it
hmm,
has that line.
thing. So that's too much water. But it's okay. This is all a way of figuring out what is optimum. But I'll show you one quick way to make this also. So this will be like how we draw or paint shiny fruit or vegetables. So this detail remains the same. But make only a small sized ornament for that. I think this part both of you have got, right? The ring part.
The drawing was okay. It's the watercolors which went.
Yeah, but even the watercoloring of this, of the ring part,
Ah,
that you got. Okay, so here now is one way of doing it. We use this exact same colors, the same thing, but we paint it in one shot. So let me show you this, and then you see how it works for you. I'm using gamboge, orange, and scarlet. And this time the pigment is a lot thicker. Then I will use crimson and scarlet. And then I will use these colors. So I'm activating all of these. So that I can use them quickly. The gamboge and orange part is very tiny. And I'm doing what we did for the lower bubble. Now I've added the second color. And it's fairly thick, and I keep replenishing the color. And I keep pulling it down away from the highlight. And as I come below half, in the remaining section, I will insert the darker shade. So this is a very generic way of filling out a bauble. In a few places, while the paint is wet, also I will add that dark shade, but not everywhere. Maybe just somewhere over here.
are you just touching the paper with that?
Yeah, I'm just touching it. And then I'll leave it. So that this is how it appears. And then again, if the color is closing in too much, I can always lift the paint. But I don't recommend this at all till you gain some control over the brush. So you get that shine. So the technique over here is to paint in succession, one below the other, in whatever shape you want. You can't do this on larger sections, so don't make it for big shapes yet. But use consistency that is not wash consistency. Pull the paint towards the edge where you want the merge. Make sure that all your colors are ready also. And then in vertical strokes, keep extending your colors into the wet. And then finally, so in the time that I mixed my color, it dried up a little bit. So here the merge was not as effective. But the bottom color is a much better merge of colors. Okay, so the consistency has to be reasonably thick. All the colors must be ready. And you keep pulling it where you want the colors to merge. But in pulling that, you should not have such a large amount of paint over here that the second color just rushes into the first color and the two just merge and become happy. So you might take a little while to adjust the amount, the consistency, just the brush strokes to figure out what is the best way to go about it. But take a small size, use a small to medium brush. So a 3 or 4, maximum 6 size brush to do this. Okay? Okay, I know this is a toughie, but you'll get it. It's not a problem of your hands. It's mostly just getting the consistency right. So next month, next week, our next month begins. On Friday, it's the 1st. So we are going to start with artists. We're going to do different artists. Now, Shivani is not in class next Friday and the one after that. So that'll be the 1st and the 8th. Jasmine, would you like to switch to another batch? Just for the next weeks?
Yeah, you have one in the morning and one later, right?
So Wednesdays, I have a batch in the evening. That's from 5 to 6:30. And
Okay.
Tuesdays, the batch is from 11 to 12:30. And Saturdays, there's a 9:30 to 11 batch. So you can choose any one of these three. And
Okay.
I can insert you in those for that week.
Cool. I'll let you know a day in advance which one I can.
That's fine. That's perfectly
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. See you then.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.